Okay, so now that we have all this information in here, let's start building our grid. So the first thing I want to do is grab everything and go to paragraph styles, new paragraph style. And what's cool about paragraph styles is it creates a link of all these settings to the text. So what can happen then is you can just change the style and everything else will go for a ride. So I want to make sure preview's on. So you go bigger and they all come for a ride. All right. I like to use just a very, very simple naming convention of like alphabetical order. And I'm just starting a little bit further down in the alphabet. If something's bigger, I'm going to call it E. If something's smaller, I'm going to call it G. And then for a font, I'm going to use SF Pro Display. It's the Apple font, something like a modern day Helvetica. And then we have to start making some decisions. So one decision is like what typeface and why. The next decision is how big. And so for how big, it's basically big enough to read, but not so big that you don't have room to play and move things around and have some negative space. And then for the leading is a really big deal. And basically what we're looking for, once again, is a nice even shape that a nice even shade of gray. We can read the text, but there's not stripes. So that's kind of stripey, like stripe, stripe, stripe. And then this is starting to smush together, right? My eye is starting to go through the white in this axis. So it's like a sweet spot, right? Over here. Pretty good. And while we're at it, let's turn off hyphenization because we're just using little blocks of type and the hyphen breaks up the words like in this animation over here and it looks a little awkward. So let's just get rid of that. All right. So let's get that. All right, so then the next thing we need to do is we're going to take that leading number and start using it to make other decisions. So preferences, units and increments, general, grid. And so what do we want? We want to start at the top of the page. We want to turn the view threshold. So this is just like if you're working on your laptop, like when does it disappear? I don't really want it to disappear, so you're going to turn that down to 5. And then this number here is going to be the basis of your grid, and it should match whatever you've set the leading to. So in this case, it's going to be 34. All right, so then we want to see what we're working with, and we go to Grids, Guides, Show Baseline Grid. All right. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is just grab all the text here and align it to the cap height. So by default, it is set to the ascent, which is whatever random character shoots up the highest in the typeface. We want cap height, so the top of the capital letters will line up to our baseline. And then we're just going to snap things to these intervals. All right, view, guides and grids. We all want to turn off smart guides because we're basically building our own guide system. And all I'm doing right now is just snapping it to the nearest line. All right, so to see where we got, so that's without the baseline, with the baseline. So right off the bat, there's like a little bit more of a rhythm here. These spaces, there's something kind of holding them together. All right, so the next thing we need to do is determine the horizontal interval. And however many number of columns you need is based on like what the information is giving you. So in this case, there's the days, 1 block of time, 2 blocks of time, 3 blocks of time. So that means layout, margins, and columns. Let's make 4. And for this kind of exercise, this project, I would encourage you to embrace your magic number, to use the same number in all these different intervals and see what it gives you. So we're going to do 34 here. The top margin, I'm just going to start from the top of the page, the bottom margin, bottom of the page, and then these, for now, is just some multiple of 34. All right. And it looks, whatever kind of looks good to your eyes. A little margin is nice because it gives some space around your type to make it legible and ensures that all the information is in the frame. All right, so now I'll duplicate this one, and we're just going to snap things to the X. All right, so compare. Cool. See now that these are starting to connect. Those are starting to connect. They have continuation, right? They're in a line, and so we know they're related. And then the same, there's also lines lining up these things. So the next thing we want to do is if we look from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, each one of these spaces is different. And what I think would be nice is treating each day the same. And what that's also going to do is create blocks that will be kind of key positions that we want to explore. So next up, see, I'm gonna measure, right, like so. And then I'm going to use this. So let's say the columns. Ooh, actually, you know what? Let's look at the margin CX. So I'm going to keep this over here for now. We also need, this is going to be schedule in College of Art Design. Bring (2022). All right. So let's look. So the next thing I want to do before I even do that block thing is just play with the margin. So right now, every margin is the same. They're each 3 units, but it's often nice to vary the margin around the page. So let's say my top margin, I will make 2 units. My left margin, I will make 3 units, and my right margin, I will make 5. And where are those numbers coming from? I can just try out some different things and see what I like. But if I take this, okay, so that's the old one, and then go to the new one, there's like a little bit more movement, more dynamism in the layout. It's a little less static. It's subtle, but a lot of subtle things can stack up to make something nice. All right, so now back to my blocks. So I measured my little block here. We'll start from there. And what I'm trying to do is just establish some key vertical intervals. Then I can grab some lines here. And those in the mix. Now that I have my line stored, I don't need these blocks anymore. And now I'm going to just use these intervals. In my class lecture, I had everything on the top of the boxes, but any corner is kind of something to check out. Here, and then let's compare a little bit more consistent interval. Alrighty, so next thing we might want to do is give this some hierarchy. So maybe we want to read the days and times before the entries. So to do that, go to our paragraph styles, F, new style, E. I like to use golden ratio, but it can be any number, but just kind of keep track of what you're multiplying it by so you can kind of have this same size relationship across all your stuff. So call this E, hit OK. So that's kind of a mess, but the hierarchy, I think, step in the right direction. Maybe we'll make these 2 lines, which introduces a new issue. All right, so this leading is way too little. So So what we could do, and if we want to be strict about this, I'm going to add some other text just so I can visualize how this plays out. What we want to do is have any leading fall on these intervals connect across sizes. So if I bring this to 50, every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines gets back in sync, right? So then the 5th line kind of comes back in rhythm with everything else. And then we also just want to see if the leading looks good, and it's fine. All right. Okay, getting better. All right, so the next thing we want to do is maybe help, if we're looking at Wednesday or Tuesday, it's kind of hard to know what day it belongs to. So we could either make some blocks like this. All right. And that'll help kind of guide your eye. And, when we get into color, these could all be different colors, or can use some typographic furniture, like rules and things, like so, like that. All right. Guiding my eyes. Back to. We could also like really play with. Well, okay. Now that we have this little machine set up, we can like move things around. We could say, okay, maybe the days are in the middle, or maybe things are on alternate sides of these lines, right? Or maybe we do Monday is up here, then these 4 are Monday, then those are Tuesday, then that's Wednesday, then that's Thursday, then that's Friday. It's basically within the structure, we can try different things. All right. And that is that. So it creates connections across elements because they line up with each other. It creates visual rhythms because you're using the same kind of intervals. Right, maybe these. Another size up, and then, yeah, whatever you did with 1, I think you should try just to see what happens using the same interval on everything. Right. And then, okay, so some of these disappeared. In InDesign, when there's extra text in there that you can't see, it's called overset text. All right. So we could either abbreviate the days, or maybe these days could go over here, and that creates a little variation, right? Maybe that's Thursday. There's so many possibilities. Okay, that's an introduction to the grid.